It is February 13th, 2026, and the headline you woke up to this morning wasn't just a standard business update or a routine financial merger. It was a surrender notice. While the mainstream media spent the morning celebrating a drop in inflation to 2.4%, a far more sinister transaction was being finalized in the shadows of the global boardroom. In a move that can only be described as a masterstroke of institutional consolidation or a carefully laid trap for the American middle class, the Japanese conglomerate Sumitomo Forestry has officially moved to swallow Tri Pointe Homes for a staggering $4.5 billion. If you think this is just another corporate acquisition, you are missing the forest from the trees. This isn't about two companies joining forces. It is about the strategic removal of one of the last major public pillars of the American housing market. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the layers of deception that few are willing to reveal. We are deconstructing the brutal truth behind these billions and the terrifying reality of what 23,000 homes by 2030 actually means for your bank account, your autonomy, and your ability to ever own a piece of the ground you stand on. Let's look at the first sign of this structural takeover, the shocking announcement. Today, the world watched as Sumitomo Forestry dropped a $4.5 billion cash hammer on the table. Think about that for a second, an all-cash transaction. In an era where interest rates have been the primary tool for keeping the average citizen out of the market, the giants aren't playing the same game you are. They don't need mortgages. They don't care about the Fed's pivots. They have $4.5 billion in liquid capital ready to seize the means of production. By offering a 29% premium over the previous closing price, Sumitomo didn't just make a fair offer, they made a kill shot offer. They paid significantly more than the historic value of the shares just to ensure that the go-private transaction went through without a hitch. But who really profits from this 29% bonus? It isn't you, it isn't the future homeowner. It's the institutional shareholders who are cashing out of the public market, leaving you with one less builder to choose from. When a public company goes private, it disappears from the light of public scrutiny. It no longer has to report to the SEC in the same way. It no longer has to justify its pricing to the public. It goes into the black box, and once it's in there, the rules of the game change forever. This brings us to the second sign, the mission treeing 2030 and the illusion of supply. Sumitomo Forestry has wrapped this acquisition in a shiny, ambitious package called Mission Treeing 2030. Their goal to deliver 23,000 homes annually in the United States by the end of the decade. At first glance, this sounds like the solution to the housing crisis, doesn't it? More homes should mean lower prices, right? Wrong. Tri Pointe Homes is the crown jewel of this strategy. With over 150 active communities in 13 states and 6,400 homes delivered just 2 years ago, Tri Pointe is a massive machine. But look closer at what those 23,000 homes represent. They aren't just homes, they're assets in a vertically integrated global empire. Sumitomo doesn't just build the house, they own the timber, they own the land, and now they own the builder. This isn't about providing houses for families, it's about controlling the entire supply chain of human shelter. When one entity controls the wood, the lot, and the construction crew, they don't have to lower prices to compete. They set the price, they dictate the pace of construction. They can withhold inventory to keep prices artificially high, and they can do it all while hiding behind the veneer of expanding the supply. Now, let's examine the third sign, the greenwash in the facade of innovation. The narrative of sustainability and innovative design is currently being sold to the public at a premium price. Both companies are shouting from the rooftops about high-quality housing and decarbonization efforts. They promise you a home that is good for the planet. But behind this thin layer of green paint lies the brutal truth of power consolidation. In a market that is already saturated with high costs and low mobility, the monopolization of sustainable housing is a way to create a green gate. By making green the new standard, they are creating a new excuse for price hikes that the average buyer cannot overcome. They talk about maintaining Tri Pointe Homes' autonomy in Irvine, California, but do you really believe a Japanese conglomerate with $4.5 billion on the line is going to let a local office call the shots? The autonomy is a branding tactic. It's a way to keep a local face on a global predator. The truth is that the control is now centralized, and centralization is the enemy of the consumer. When the power to dictate the rules of the neighborhood moves from local builders to a global spreadsheet, the price of your dream home is no longer determined by your local economy. It is determined by the global profit margins of a company that views your neighborhood as a harvestable forest. The revelation, the climax of this investigation. The acquisition of Tri Pointe by Sumitomo is not just a business deal, it is a strategic move that fundamentally redraws the map of the American housing market. While the shareholders are popping champagne over that 29% premium, and while the media is distracted by the 2.4% inflation report, the real cost of this deal is being passed directly to you. We are witnessing a housing coup. By buying the builders, the institutional giants are ensuring that the houses of the future never even hit the traditional market. They are born as corporate assets. Less competition in the building sector means more power to control prices. The dream of homeownership is being systematically transformed into an inaccessible privilege for the few. They speak of expansion, they speak of sustainability, but the brutal truth is that it is about the power to extract maximum profit from your basic human need for shelter. They didn't want you to see the connection. They didn't want you to know that the reason you can't find a starter home in 2026 is because the companies that used to build them have been liquidated into private portfolios. The centralization of the housing market is the greatest threat to your financial sovereignty in this decade. Every time a major builder is removed from the public market, the ladder of wealth is pulled up another 10 feet. You are being pushed into a world where you don't own your life. You rent it from a conglomerate that has already calculated the maximum amount of money they can take from your paycheck before you break. The Goldilocks economy the government is bragging about today is a mirage. The inflation might be lower, but the barrier to entry is higher than it has ever been in the history of this country. Are you ready to understand how this billionaire play affects your pocket and your future? Are you ready to stop listening to the official story and start looking at the maps they are drawing behind your back? The secret that Sumitomo and Tri Pointe don't want you to know is that they aren't building a future for you. They are building a future where you are the product and your rent is their permanent dividend. We are at a crossroads. One path leads to the traditional dream of owning the ground you stand on, and the other leads to a permanent, institutionalized rent trap. This acquisition is a major step down the second path. It is the end of the independent builder and the rise of the global housing monopoly. While you were sleeping, they bought the factory. While you were waiting for rates to drop, they bought the inventory. The game is being rigged in real time. Understand the game, or prepare to be a pawn on their board for the next 30 years. The truth is brutal, it is cold, and it is expensive, but knowing the truth is the only way to protect what is left of your future. Stay analytical, stay skeptical, and never stop deconstructing the narratives they use to keep you blind to the coup that is happening in your own backyard.